Hey everybody, welcome to this week's episode of the Patty G Show. This week we are going to school. We are learning how to flex our fingers, stroke the keys, and also stroke your minds from an educational standpoint. This week we have Jacques Hopkins in studio telling us about how he created how to learn a piano in 21 days and also build your own online course and be successful at it. Super excited to have him in here and hear his story. Truly unique. So enjoy the episode, brought to you by Lakeman's Health Center, PB&J Productions, and Cortex. Enjoy the show. But tell me about your setup before we get too deep. Your podcasting setup that you have.
Okay, so let's start there. I've run my own podcast for 7 years now, and it's not like this, but I've got my own little home studio, got a microphone, and I created an online course teaching piano a long time ago, and I felt very isolated with what I was doing. I didn't know anybody else that was creating an online course and selling it to the world, right? So that was the reason I started my podcast. Was a reason to reach out and talk to other people doing what I was doing, but in other niches. So that's how I started my podcast. And interviewing other, what were called course creators, and just all kinds of different niches, people all over the world. And so I don't know if you mean like physical setup or like the setup of the podcast itself. But
yeah, no, the physical setup. I'm curious on the gear.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I love gear. So I've got 4 cameras in my office. It's a lot smaller than this room. It's in my house.
4 cameras?
I have 4 cameras because one is above,
right?
Because sometimes I do have to record piano videos, but it's also helpful when I'm recording business content because I can break out some big paper and do diagrams where it's filming from overhead. So that works. And then I just have 3 camera angles. You know, you have multiple camera angles here. So I have my main front shot, and then I've got one off to the side that's on a slider, and then one to the left.
So the slider being an active slider while you're recording, it's moving back and forth?
Yes. Because I do more than podcasting. I create a lot of video content.
Yeah.
And I have a full-time video editor in the Philippines. And so what I do is when I want to record content, podcast or otherwise, I hit record on all 4 cameras and give him the raw footage. And then that allows him to do whatever he wants with it. And he's got a lot to work with.
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. 4 camera angles with a slider. So how are you transmitting that? Curiously, like, is it through Google Drive? Like, what's your data exchange?
Yeah, we just use Google Drive. Okay. We've got Google Drive folders that have a lot of capacity because we're recording all 4K.
Yeah,
and the software I use is vMix. I don't know what you guys use here, but I use vMix as my video and audio hub to record everything. So it records straight to the hard drive, and then I think it automatically goes to the cloud, and he just picks them up.
Got it. So it's automatically synced.
Yes.
Okay. So we use the ATEM Mini switchboard that records straight into an external hard drive. And then we use the Rodecaster Pro for the audio capture. So we do same thing straight to an external hard drive, but it doesn't get automatically exported to the cloud.
Is the guy editing in the Philippines or is he in Baton Rouge?
Oh, he's right there.
Okay.
Yeah. He's the man. Jay's the man.
Yeah. So the cloud's maybe not quite as important. Still nice to have backups, but I got to get it across the world to my guy.
I know. So you're doing everything global, which is crazy. I mean, how did you get it started with the piano?
Well, I was an electrical engineer in Baton Rouge. I graduated in 2008 from LSU, and my whole life, I've always wanted to be an engineer. And the reason was because it was my first grade teacher. I was just good at math. I was bad at other subjects. I was good at math. And she was like, you're so good at math, you should be an engineer one day. Before I even knew what it was, I thought it had something to do with trains, right? And I was like playing with Legos and building things. So I always knew I wanted to be an engineer, was going to work for a company till I was 65 and retire. And I read a book my senior year of college that had just come out, 4-Hour Work Week by Tim Ferriss. And I had no idea why I picked it up. I mean, it's a catchy title. It sounds cool, right? But I never had a problem with, 40-hour work weeks. But I read it. And have you read the book before?
Yes.
Okay. So
great book.
It was a total paradigm shift for me in terms of being an entrepreneur, because up until that point, I thought being an entrepreneur meant having a brick and mortar presence, having a big team, taking a lot of investing capital or debt, and a lot of headaches, a lot of 80-hour work weeks, right? I thought that's what being an entrepreneur was. And so it never appealed to me. When I read that book, he had a different idea of what being an entrepreneur could be. And it could be an online business of some sort. And you didn't have to, have all those things I mentioned. You didn't have to have a brick and mortar presence. That's when I first learned about remote outsourcing to the Philippines. And but what really stood out to me was all the really cool things he was able to do with his life because of what he set up, right? Like all the traveling, like the dancing in South America, and all the different examples of just world travel while still running his business. So that's what got me thinking, like, okay, this is cool. I'd love to do something like this. When I read it, I already had a job lined up. Like I was going to be an engineer in Baton Rouge, and I didn't hate that, but I still wanted to pursue something like he did. And I tried. The piano thing wasn't the first thing. I tried.
What was the first thing?
I think a blog. Like it was like 2008, 2009. Like blogs were starting. Like people were making money from blogs. Remember I said I was like good at math and not the other stuff. Like I wrote like one blog post, and I was like, wait, I'm terrible at writing. Like why? I can't be a blogger. I don't write. I don't like to write.
Yeah.
So I tried a couple of those. That was silly for me.
Yeah.
There was a couple of like physical products I tried to invent. So
what
like
were the products?
Do you have a standing desk?
I do. I actually just finished installing mine.
Is it adjustable?
Yes.
Okay. So there were
like 4 presets, but then I can actually fine tune it.
Yeah, that's what I have too.
Yeah.
Uplift, that's what I have.
Vivio, I think, or something like that.
There's a bunch of them now. Back then, like people were just starting to talk about standing desks, and I was working as an engineer,
right?
And so I was talking to a coworker of mine about it. He's like, "Yeah, I want to try it. I don't know how to try it." So we went to Home Depot and bought a bunch of stuff to rig up our desks at our office to convert it to a standing desk. And
electrical engineer makes sense. Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't electrical, but like engineering. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that was cool. But I was like, like if we wanted to do this,
right,
I'm sure other people want to not necessarily buy a standing desk because that's cost prohibitive. But if there's a way to convert your existing desk into a standing desk. So I thought of this idea to put something underneath your desk that could raise it up. The name was Desk Docker, right? That was the name I came up with. Desk Docker, like a dock for your desk, right? It was a terrible idea because a couple years later, like people started coming up with these things that you put on top of your desk. That way better idea, right?
Yeah.
But also I learned that I didn't really want to get into like physical products, like prototypes and inventory and all that. But
it's a pain.
It's another thing I tried.
Yeah.
Tried making an app.
What'd the app do?
So I like to write everything down. Like I don't like having a thought, like an idea, or even just like something I need at the grocery store and forget about it. And I'm not great with that. So I try to write everything down. And one of the places, and I do that, but one of the places that it's not great to do is when you're driving. So I created an app called Driving Thoughts.
Great name.
Thank you. The tagline was for when the wheels are turning.
That's clever.
So you would just have to open the app, and then as soon as you opened it, it would start listening to you, and you would talk into it. And then once it sensed that you were done talking, the app would automatically shut down. So all you'd have to do is press one thing, right? It's for while you're driving, and it would transcribe that and email it to you.
Outside of unlocking your phone, finding the app.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
But yes, one tap. Like you don't have to log in. Okay.
Yeah. So I made the app.
Yeah.
I put it in the Android App Store long time ago. Made version 1. Never did anything else with it. Never made a single dollar. Some people downloaded it. I used it. It was cool. Better tools came out. There's an app called Brain Toss that I use today. That's very similar concept. Way better than the app that I made. I don't know if I was lazy or just didn't know how to progress with that, like didn't know how to monetize or anything like that. But that was just my motivation behind the app was like the whole 4-hour work week thing, right? And so I was trying all these different things, and I was newly married, like 2013. I tried a bunch of things, and so I'd come home after work, long work day, and I've got a wife now, and it's like I should be working on this business, but I was procrastinating.
Right.
Because I didn't have much energy left. And the way the piano thing started was, instead of working on one of those businesses, I was playing my piano.
Okay, so you could play piano before all this.
I started playing when I was 5.
Okay.
I was a terrible piano student. Never practiced, didn't like it, but I was like, I was a good kid. Like, I wanted to do whatever my parents said. And so they wanted me to do piano lessons. My 2 older sisters did it and quit. I was like, I'm not going to quit. I'm just going to do it. But I didn't do it well. Right. So I didn't progress very far. My story with piano is that I took piano lessons for 12 years. After 12 years, I'm 17 years old. And I realized I could only play 2 songs on the piano.
I feel like that's what ends up happening if people don't stick with it. You get like 1 or 2 songs that just are ingrained in you.
Yeah, but that's the people that took lessons for like 6 months. I took it for 12 years.
How often were the lessons though?
Once a week.
Okay.
Yeah, once a week. So I went to this retreat with my church in Toronto, and we were all hanging out one night, and there was like a piano where we were at, and somebody knew I played piano. They're like, hey, go play something. So I played a song.
Yeah.
And it was like, and it wasn't even a cool song, right? It was like a classical, I don't remember what song it was, but it was something 17-year-olds weren't impressed by.
Yeah, it was like a Bach or a Beethoven or something.
Yeah, something like that.
You traditionally learn on the piano.
Right. And they're like, okay, can you play anything else? So I played another song. Anything else? And that's when I realized I only knew how to play 2 songs, because like they're asking me to play. They knew I played, quote unquote.
Right.
I only knew how to play 2 songs. And so I went home and that's not what happened next. What happened next is another guy went on the piano after me, and he played lots of songs. And he was playing like pop songs. And some were like churchy music, like modern churchy music, but then he was also playing like pop songs too. And it was just blowing my mind that he was able to do that. So I sat down with him. I'm like, what's going on here? And he showed me a concept on the piano that I'd never heard before. Are you musical at all? Like, you play any instruments?
Are you going to say the 4-chord song?
That's not what I'm going to say, but I use that heavily in my marketing.
And yes, I'm musically inclined. Yeah. Played saxophone for 10 years and played piano for another 4.5, 5 years. So I can read music and understand most of it, but don't quiz me on any of the technical.
Yeah, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
For me at that point, I thought playing the piano was, first you had to learn to read sheet music.
Right.
And then if you want to learn a song, you buy the sheet music, and then you play play the sheet music exactly like it's written.
Right.
And then better yet, you memorize it. Now you can play the song.
Right.
But you're just a robot parroting something back, right? You're not like making music, and like I didn't really understand what music was or what playing the piano was, because I was just parroting something back, right? I didn't know what a chord was after 12 years, right? So he showed me like chords, like what a chord really was, and then improvisation, like being able to improvise around the chords. So you could look up the chords for popular songs and then improvise around those chords. And my mind was just like blown, like, wait, this is possible? Like, that's incredible. So I went home and I quit piano lessons, but I didn't quit playing piano. I started playing with like that method, and I started playing like at the church. And so I just, like, for the first time I was enjoying playing piano. And I was never good at it or anything, but like it was a new way to play, and I was enjoying it for the first time. So that was just a hobby of mine. I didn't play every day or anything like that, but I would dabble here and there. And so, in 2013, the story I was getting at earlier, I was just dabbling on the piano. I was playing some chords, I was improvising, and I enjoyed doing it, right? And I was procrastinating. I thought I should be doing this other thing. I was neglecting it. I was playing the piano. And then I was in that moment one night, I was like, oh, well, maybe there's something here. Like I don't want to do anything else. I'm here at the piano. Like, is there something here? And that night I was listening to a podcast, Smart Passive Income with Pat Flynn. You ever heard of it?
I've heard of Pat Flynn.
Pat Flynn, yeah. He started a podcast a long time ago called Smart Passive Income.
Okay.
And he had a guest on that I was listening to that night who was talking about his successes with an online piano course that very night. And I was like, oh, this is it right here. He specialized in jazz, so he had jazz piano courses. I was like, okay, I'm going to scrap whatever I was working on at the time and focus on an online piano course. That's my next thing. So that's how it got started.
And so when you start out, you had a few years under your belt of this new piano method. I mean, did you have any teaching or course developing type of insight? Like, how did you even begin to go about doing that? Like, yeah, you hear online course, but it's like,
right.
How do you make it?
Well, no is the answer to your question. I knew there could be something there because of my story. Like,
okay.
I had this background in traditional piano learning that didn't work for me. It obviously works for a lot of people, but there's also a lot of people that, I mean, how many people do you know that used to take piano lessons, like took piano lessons as a kid? Like almost everybody, right?
Everybody, yeah.
But most of them like don't know how to play anything today.
Right.
But I felt like I discovered a different way to play piano that was more accessible for more people. And so that's what I wanted to focus on in terms of differentiation with my course. I knew I had something kind of different that most people weren't teaching it this way. But as far as having ever taught it to anybody else, no. Like, ever created videos before or made a course before or anything like that? No, absolutely not. So I had to learn it. And a lot of it was learning it the hard way.
So I'm assuming your first step was just pressing record on a video, or I know you write things down. So were you writing down, like, let me get this thesis of this whole video series put together and design it on paper and then go record? Like, what was that process?
I think the first thing I wanted to do was come up with a name.
Okay.
I knew that my pitch was going to be that you'd learn quickly. Mm-hmm. So my first idea was piano in 30 days. Somebody already took that. But also, like, I opened up, not even Google Sheets at the time, Microsoft Excel, and I started filling in lessons, like what could lessons be? And I got to around the 21 mark. I was like, I don't know if I even have more than this. I don't know if it's real or not, but the whole 21 days to form a habit, it just felt like it had a good ring to it, piano in 21 days. So I registered the domain. And what I did was I started just kind of designing out the course on paper. So I started with more of an ebook because I was thinking that once it came time to sell, I could have like an ebook version and then a course version. And I figured that recording the course would be easier if I had like the ebook flushed out with the curriculum kind of in there.
This episode of the Patty G Show is brought to you by Cortex. Cortex is the trusted technology partner for small businesses across Louisiana, delivering managed IT, cybersecurity, and smart strategies to help you leverage AI without the confusion. I mean, aren't we all confused by AI nowadays? As a locally owned company, we understand the challenges Louisiana businesses face and provide tailored solutions that keep your operations secure and efficient. Whether you're looking to strengthen your cybersecurity or explore how AI can give your business a competitive edge, Cortex is here to help. Be sure to mention the Patty G Show and receive a free cybersecurity risk and analysis to see where your business stands.
So that's the path that I took. All in all, it took about 8 months. I mean, I'm working a full-time job.
Right.
Didn't know what I was doing. And so I kind of wrote the ebook, and I'm not great at writing. And then I had to figure out how to film videos. I used a webcam, like a Logitech webcam, because I mean, just figuring out how to record an overhead shot above my piano took forever, right? I mean, this was 12 years ago,
Yeah, webcam. The only thing I can think of 12 years ago is like webcam and like a stick or something.
I took...
or like a ladder, maybe.
I took half of like a queen bed frame.
Okay.
Yeah, because they like fold up, so it folded up all around like that, and then I took the wire of the webcam and like rigged it up on top like that,
so it could clip on the wood
of the bed frame. Yeah.
Okay, I'm following your. Following your.
But it was like in the living room of my house with.
You got like a bed frame around your piano.
Yeah, so I couldn't just like leave it up. Just like I had to bring it out when I wanted to record. So I recorded the course. The first version wasn't great, and I launched it in October of 2013.
Okay.
How do you think it did? Think it did well?
October 2013?
Yeah.
I think it Maybe may have had a few hits from your friends and family and folks you told about.
No, I didn't. I wasn't really telling
anybody about it.
No, because like you're putting yourself out there on the internet. Like, I didn't know what people would think about me. Like, I was scared. Okay, I didn't, and I was never like on camera. I just had that shot on my fingers. Because I this was all new stuff to me now.
So were you doing like voiceover?
I was talking.
You were expecting the webcam to pick up using whatever microphone it had.
Yeah, and it did. I was talking. I was like, here's how you do the C chord. And like, I was talking, but it was just my hands, right?
Got it.
So I launch it and I listen to a lot of podcasts. I still do. And, I told you about the story on Smart Passive Income of that piano course guy, but I would hear on different podcasts and even that podcast, people that would create courses and they would launch it. And then the story was always the same. Like they would launch it and then they would get distracted. They'd go have dinner with their wife. They'd come back and like they have $1 million in their bank account. Mm-hmm. Those are the only stories I was hearing, right?
Well, you don't want to hear the other ones,
right?
Of I launched it and had 0 views. Or
right.
You pull a Michael Scott. Every time I press the refresh button, the counter goes up.
Yes.
Because it's you.
Right. Exactly. Those are the only stories I was hearing.
Yeah.
So I thought that that's just what was going to happen for me as well. Right. So I launched it and nobody bought it.
What was your price point at this point in time?
So I launched. So the price was going to be $300. Okay. $297. I remember when I first got the idea, I was telling my wife about the idea and she was like, oh, that's cool. Like, what would you charge for something like that? I was like, well, I'm not sure exactly, but I'm thinking around $300. And I'll never forget this because she goes, who in the hell is going to pay that for that? So I was going to launch, it was going to be $300, but I was like, okay, for launch, I'll start at $100. $100 for $997.
Fair.
Right?
You got to get the traction and get the people visiting and the clicks. And
it's new, sense. Right? I don't have any success stories yet.
So how many videos are in the series? We're in the series at that
21.
time. So just a video per day.
Yeah, and it's still like that.
And is it an hour?
No.
So how long is each video?
So when I launched, it was about 5 minutes per video. The course today is about 30 minutes per video.
Okay, so at the time it was 5 minutes per video.
I just had it's very simple process, right? Piano in 21 days. Like, and I have one concept to teach you on each day that builds upon itself. And the core concept remains the same. The reason they're 30 minutes now is because I learned we need like exercises, we need more thorough explanation. But I launched it that day. Nobody bought. I also started a YouTube channel and put a few videos up. It didn't go crazy or anything, but like I had a very, very, very small audience. I launched it. Nobody bought. The next morning, I checked my phone right before I went to bed. No sales. The next morning I wake up and I'm like, okay, this is it. You hear about like making money while you sleep, right?
Right.
This is it. Check my phone. Still no sales. And my wife's like, okay, get your mind off of it. Go to Starbucks, get us some coffee. So I go to Starbucks. It was the one at Perkins Row. I remember I was in line. I don't normally get to talk about like actual locations because my global audience
you're everywhere.
You know Perkins Row.
Yeah.
And I was in line at Starbucks in Perkins Row, and my phone dang. I got a notification, and it could have been a text, could have been whatever, and it was my first sale. And so that was the first sale of somebody, like a stranger, paying me money through the internet, $97. And I literally start dancing in line there at Starbucks in October 2013 for my first sale. But the sales did not start rolling in. That was the first one. And I mean, the second one might have come a couple weeks later. Yeah. It was very slow going for a while, but that's how I got the idea, how it got started into the first sale.
So, I mean, like, you make that first sale, great, you're dancing and everything. Are you marketing anything at this point? Or are you just websites out there, you've done enough SEO, you feel like people are going to find it if they Google how to learn piano?
Yeah, not so much SEO. Like, I was hoping to get some traffic from YouTube. So I started a YouTube channel and had just a couple of videos up there that weren't really doing much. So, like...
But were you posting consistently?
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. That's one of the things I started doing more, like now that because I had to put a lot of energy into actually creating the course.
Yeah, you got 8 months worth of your life.
Yeah. I mean, if I had to do it over again, I would have focused way more on the marketing first before launching the product so that when I launched it, people were ready to buy it. But at the time, that's not what I did. But that's one of the first things I did after the launch was make more YouTube videos, try to build that audience more and more.
So you do that, and then at what point, when was that tipping point where you were like, okay, now the sales are coming in? Like it went from one, several weeks later, a second. Like did it ever get to a point where you were just like, okay, they're rolling in, I can step away from the engineering gig?
Yes. After a couple of years, it worked its way up to about $1,000 a month.
Okay.
That's not much.
But still,
it's something.
It's real.
It's something, right?
I mean, a couple grand a month.
No, it wasn't a couple grand. It was 1,000.
Oh, 8,000. Okay.
Yeah. I remember my first.
I mean, that's a mortgage payment for
yeah,
folks.
It was cool, but that wasn't my goal. My goal was not a side hustle. My goal was to quit my job, to make even more money from this, and to be able to travel and like work from anywhere and all of that.
Live
right?
the 4-hour work week. Yeah.
Yeah. It was cool, but it wasn't what I wanted. So it's bringing in about $1,000 a month. 2015, middle of the way of 2015, we have our first daughter.
Okay.
My wife was also an electrical engineer. She did that for 5 years. We had our first daughter. She retired, came home, stayed with the baby.
Yeah.
So we no longer have her income. So I'm still working, making $1,000 a month. And I'm like, babe, I feel like there's something here, but I need to spend more time on it to make it work, right?
So had you redone any of the videos up to this point, or were you still rocking the original? Here's the course.
I think 2 years in, I had made the second version of the course, and I had made a lot more YouTube videos, which is it started getting a little traction, right? $1,000 a month, that's something.
Well, were you still selling it for 97, or had you bumped it
No,
up?
we were at 300.
Okay,
right.
So you're making 3 to 4 sales.
3 to 4 sales a month, exactly.
Which is, for getting started with no marketing spend, is great.
Yeah, no spend. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah,
because you already had. I mean, your upfront cost was you, right?
Yes.
You didn't pay anybody to edit the videos at the time.
Not at the time.
I was about to say at the time, I'm guessing. Right. So your overhead, so to speak, was nothing. You just had time.
That's right.
Which is arguably the most valuable commodity. But anyways, like you didn't have to pay anybody anything. You weren't like your wife said, oh, you've got to recoup what you spent to get it started.
No. And that's one of the things I love about like an online course type business is there's minimal upfront costs. So, but we have a new baby and like, I've got my life. And so I'm just not able to put much time in it, but I hated to like give up on it or just like coast on the $1,000 a month or whatever. And so we had some very serious discussions about what to do. And fortunately, we had set ourselves up very well up until that point because we were both engineers. We just had our first kid, so we while we were working, we were trying to be very financially diligent, even before I started Piano in 21 Days. And so, fortunately, by that point, we had paid off our mortgage. We had a little bit of savings, and so we agreed that I could, at that point, step away from my job because, and this is something I learned from 4 Hour Work Week. That he mentioned that when he's weighing big decisions, he likes to look at it in best case and worst case scenarios, right? And give it a scale of 1 out of 10, right? For me, best, like I step away from my job, best case scenario is a 10 out of 10. Like I make it work. And we live the life we always wanted, right? Worst case scenario is like a 6 because I can go back to work, right? I have an engineering degree. I'd gotten an MBA. I felt like I could go back to the same job or find work, right? So worst case wasn't that bad. So we agreed that we had enough savings plus the $1,000 a month to try it for a year, up to a year. Okay. Live very frugally.
Well, I mean, but still 12 months is a serious runway.
Yeah. Like, I used almost all of it.
But I mean, like for the average person, for you to tell them, hey, 12 months, stop what you're working on and figure out your business, they would give you without a doubt a no. So you just taking that leap is huge.
I'm not a big risk taker, but I really wanted it. I really wanted it. And so, man, in January of 2016, it was so weird because I quit my job. I worked there for 8 years. And I go to my little home office and I'm sitting there. And for the first time ever, it's like a Monday at 9:00. And I'm like, I can do whatever I want to do right now. I'm calling the shots. This is my business. And it felt so weird at the time.
Yeah.
So we go like that, and long story short, it's October and we're still making $1,000 a month.
Okay. So to make the long story long,
okay.
But I mean, I'm just curious, like you sit down, what are you tactically doing that first day? Outside of the procrastination that happens, the family time you're inevitably going to do with the kid and the wife and all that stuff, like what does your first day consist of? I mean, because now you're a business, you were already a business owner, but now you're a business owner and full-time operator.
Right.
So what are you doing?
So this would be 9 years ago?
Yeah.
I have no idea. I don't know. Trying stuff, reading books, taking courses.
So you're bettering your self-betterment is what the initial kick was.
I'm learning stuff and then I'm trying it. I'm learning stuff and I'm trying it. Like so everybody was talking about webinars at the time, like these live webinars. I would try a live webinar. Maybe this is my ticket, right?
Right. First
live webinar I did, I literally logged in from other computers so that it could, if nobody showed up or a few people showed up, it would look like other people were there too, right? And so I was logged in on like 3 other computers and one person showed up as well, right? Like very embarrassing. Those are the types of things I was just like trying and working on. Once again, I still really didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
October, that's like 9-10 months into the year. It still hasn't worked yet, and I've got a few months left. But my daughter is at that point a little over 1, and she comes over to me with a book and sits on my lap, wants me to read the book to her. It's called Little Miss Big Sis. My wife did it. Her way of telling me she's pregnant. So we got kid number 2 on the way. We weren't like really trying. Like it was kind of a surprise because we're in this whole limbo phase, right? It wasn't exactly what the timing we were going for, and everything just got really real for me at that point. So I started looking for jobs, and even went on a couple of job interviews. But October of that year is also when I figured things out. I installed the last piece of the puzzle that I was missing, right? For me, what I was missing was a sales funnel. So I had traffic coming in. I had built up to the YouTube channel to some extent, right? I had traffic coming in, but people would come in and they would go, like they would leave YouTube, come to my website, pianoin21days.com, and it was basically a sales page trying to get you to buy the course. And what I was missing was like that just like trust building part in the middle, right? That one page wasn't doing enough to build enough trust for them to actually pull out their wallets and give a stranger $300, right? To looking back, what I know now is that to make it work, you've got to have 3 things from somebody. You have to have their eyeballs, you have to have their heart, and you have to have their wallets. And what I was missing was the heart piece, right? I was getting eyeballs on it.
Yeah.
But I wasn't winning over their heart, their trust, right? And that's what a sales funnel did for me. So instead of them coming over to my world and just immediately asking them to buy, basically, instead I put up just like here's the free first 5 days and a little workbook, download it. And then once they downloaded it, they give me their email address to download it. Then I can start sending them content through emails. So I'd send them some free videos, some emails, showing my personality and my brand, some case studies. And that was just, that was the funnel I created based on, actually, I was listening to a podcast where this guy successfully sold his online course using a certain type of sales funnel. And so I just listened to that podcast like 3 or 4 times and implemented exactly how he said to do it. Once I implemented that, leaving everything else the same course, same traffic, sales 10x'd overnight. 10x'd. So
it's same exact, nothing with the actual content itself, just your funnel process.
It was the sales funnel.
Okay.
It 10x'd by installing that. I mean, it took me a few weeks to implement it, but like once I hit go, it was like overnight. All of a sudden, I started making 10,000. So in November, it made over 10,000. December, it made over 10,000. January is always my best month. New Year's resolutions and whatnot. January made
that makes sense.
January made 20,000, and I remember looking at my wife in January. I was like, I can't believe this is working. Like this is working, right? This is working. And so you teed me up for that question. Like, was there a moment where it like started working? That was it. And it's brought in 5 figures every month since then.
Wow. So every month since then, it's just been consistent.
Well, there's been times when it's been a lot more.
Well, yeah.
But it's been at least that amount ever since then. Yeah.
That's incredible, man. So literally just by tweaking one thing and not changing the overall product, you're able to substantially grow sales.
Yes. Because what I learned is you need certain pieces to make it all work, right? When people set out to make an online course, they think the biggest piece of that is to make the online course, right? But it's an online course business. It's more than just the course. So we have to figure out how to market it. We have to figure out how to sell it, win over the hearts. We have to get testimonials. There's a lot of pieces to it. And for me, it was just that the sales funnel was the last piece that I put in there. I had all the other pieces.
Yeah.
Other people might find that a different one of those pieces was the last piece they needed.
Got it. So you're doing that, and now you got success. I'm assuming you stopped going on job interviews.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So when that happens, and like you finish the month in October and November, like what was the conversation around the dinner table like at that point? Because like you had 10 grueling months of really nothing, and like trying to figure it out. And then all of a sudden you had that last piece installed and now you're ready to rock and roll. Well, I mean, what was the feeling in the house when that happened?
If it happens 1 month, it could be a fluke, right? If it happens a second month, it still could be like, it's still new, right? That's why it was like that third month where it was even going up a little bit. I was like, babe, I think like this is really working, right? And so, I mean, even 3 months is not a long time. So I had to keep going and try to keep improving it, keep getting better. But that was the first time it felt like a real thing where it was definitely going to work, right? So that was it. I mean, it could have turned down at any point. In fact, when COVID hit, I didn't know what was going to happen to my business, right? Yeah. Obviously, it was a terrible time for a lot of people, but that was a shaky time in terms of my mindset, because I'm like, this could be the thing that just like causes it to completely tank. And then what do I do, right? Because I just have this one little online business thing, and then maybe I have to go back to work. For my business, COVID was exceptional.
I was about to say, if I was a betting man, I was going to say you were going to skyrocket during COVID.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, because, the amount of online piano courses that exist today in 2025 is astronomical.
Oh, I mean, everybody's got a course at this point, right? It's like everybody has a podcast at this point.
Do you have a course?
I don't have a course.
Well,
we've talked about it.
Almost everybody has a course.
Almost everybody has a course.
A lot of people have courses today, and that's great. Courses are awesome. I'm a big fan. In 2013, when I started, there was a handful of piano courses. Even in 2020, there weren't near as many as there are today. And I was set up as one of the top, if not the top, online piano course. And I'd already, invested a lot of SEO by that point, and my YouTube channel was doing well. And so when COVID hit, everybody's staying home. How many people have learning piano on their bucket list?
A lot.
They're home looking for something to do. Google how to learn piano. YouTube, how to learn piano. I'm showing up right up there. And so COVID was great. Had some 6-figure months there. So we're not doing as well today as we were in COVID. That was good times for the business, because we were already set up for success at that point.
Welcome to the brand new Falaya mobile app. We took all the same tech that's helped hundreds of people sell their homes themselves and packed it into an easy-to-use app for your phone. When you download the Falaya mobile app on either the Apple or Android App Store, you'll immediately be able to see the power of this game-changing tool. From the seller's dashboard, you can navigate to all the information that you need. We intentionally separated everything into key groups, such as tasks to be completed, buyer leads for your listing, and contact information for everyone involved through closing. When you get an offer on your property, you can simply review and respond all within the app. No matter where you are in the world, you'll be able to monitor everything that's going on with your property from listed to sold. It's truly the power of Falaya in the palm of your hand. Download the app and see for yourself. Falaya, it's real estate reimagined.
Yeah, I mean, you were on what version of the course at that point?
At that point, I was on version 5. We're on version 6 today, but we were on version 5 at that point.
So when you're redoing the course, are you actually changing the content, or are you just making it better aesthetically?
It's both.
Okay.
Those are the two reasons that I would update the course, would be higher production value or modified curriculum.
Okay.
Right. And so every time I've updated has been for those two reasons. And the last time I updated it, which was like 2021, 4 years ago, I kind of was like, hopefully this is the last time. So I spent just gobs and gobs of time with modifying the last version to make it. That may be when I bought my 4th camera, went all 4K with everything, and then just really, really spent time dialing in my curriculum. I actually tested it on some live people just to make sure it was the best curriculum it could be before I launched that version 6. And I'm still very proud of it. Still, I'm glad I made version 6. So, but those are the reasons I make updates to it.
Got it. So you said the last time. What does that imply? I'd much rather talk about business and talk about online course businesses. And that's why I have the second brand. We started by talking about the podcast. That's obviously about the second brand. I don't podcast about piano. So I don't spend much time on the piano business these days. So that's why I said it the way I said it, is because, I love it. It's my baby. But if this version can last a while, that'd be great. It would be a lot of effort to re-record it again. Mm-hmm. So now stepping into your second business, being the online course designing, explain that a little bit.
Yeah. So I started that brand with the podcast, and I explained my motivation for that earlier with wanting to be able to talk to other course creators, feeling very isolated with what I was doing, because everybody I interacted with day to day in Baton Rouge, had normal jobs and, didn't know what I was talking about with the, Kajabi and sales funnels and lead magnets and things like that. So I started the podcast not really knowing which direction I would go. Maybe a course on courses, the whole meta thing, possibly making even more money by teaching people to make money. Typically you can make more money teaching people to make money versus a hobby. Not really knowing what direction it would go, but I knew I loved it. I was on a podcast in 2017 called Side Hustle Show with Nick Loper. And it's a very big podcast. I was really honored that he invited me on. And after that podcast aired, I had an email in my inbox asking if I would coach them. He's like, "Hey, I love your story. I tried to start this online course thing. It's not going great. Love to do what you did." And so that was my first coaching client. So I worked with him, and he ended up doing better than me, which is, I love that. My first coaching client, you want to know what his niche was? Do you know what microgreens are?
Microgreens?
Yes.
Fill me in.
Okay. Microgreens are baby versions of plants that are I learned everything I know about microgreens from him, but they're 20 to 40 times more nutritious than the full grown version. Chefs use them a lot to garnish dishes.
Okay.
So you might see them on top of dishes, but a lot of people put them in smoothies because they're super nutritious. You'll see them for sale at a farmer's market. So he would teach people to grow and sell them, kind of make a business out of them. That's what his course was on. So that's the first person I ever coached. And I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed talking to him about the business side of things and not just piano, and working with him. So I did the podcast. I've been doing that ever since, and then started working with people kind of one-on-one. And then that turned into a course, turned into a coaching program. So that's how that got started.
Gotcha. So now it's a full-fledged course, full-fledged coaching program.
Yeah.
Teaching people how to go about making their own.
Yep. Yeah. So I have 2 coaching programs. One's for what you just said, teaching people how to do it from the beginning. And then I have a second coaching program for people that already have courses that are looking to scale.
Got it. Okay. So when going to open that, going back to the conversation with the family, what was that like? Oh, I'm going to not ditch the piano thing, but start actually helping these people do it.
Like when you say family, I mean my wife?
Yeah, your wife. Yeah.
I don't know. She still, I would say, thinks this whole thing is like very voodoo. Like it's just like it's like an internet business. Like
it's not real.
No, not that it's not real, but it's like it's not something you can touch. So it's like, you know, I mean, I told you the story about like who the hell would pay that for that.
Right.
Like obviously she's on my team and she's in my court.
Of course.
But like the fact that I wanted to all of a sudden start a podcast about the business thing, like for her, that was all still the same thing. Right.
Yeah.
So she didn't think much of it.
She was like, it's just another thing that he's doing.
Yeah. As part of the online business. Right.
Yeah. Okay. See, so my wife's an engineer, and she has the very much same thought process
as
yours, which is why I was curious. Yeah. But it's also true. Like if you've got something that's going well, and then you want to either add another arm to it or totally expand off, you're going to get your feedback from your partner in life.
Sure.
And that could swing one way or the other. You know, yours was gracious enough to give you those 12 months of runway as a collective, and then to have it be successful is huge. And then go back and say, okay, we're going to do this other thing, and be like, you know, yeah, it's all the same stuff to me, but like you do you. Like that's great.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, she's a huge supporter, and I don't mean the voodoo thing to be negative from her perspective, right? Like
but it's true, right? When you think of a course, you can't touch it. Like there's no like I mean, you can download it, maybe print out whatever handouts you have, but that's it.
Right.
Like there's nothing else there to be tangible. And so if you kind of live in the world of only operating intangibles, it's tough to see. It's tough to digest. But if you're in that space, you're like, oh yeah, no, this is a business. This is how we make money.
Yeah. She always says like if something were to happen to me, like she wouldn't know where would we get money from? Like what would I do? Right. So a few years ago, I have a thumb drive where I recorded a really long video. Like, in case something happens to me, you got to look at this. It's going to tell you exactly what to do and how everything works.
I love that. Yeah. Like, here's the keys to the kingdom. Yes. Don't lose this thumb drive.
Gives her peace of mind, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, at the time of passing, we go through all these documents. And, okay, here's this thumb drive. He says, plug this in and press play.
Yeah, hopefully she doesn't have to use it, but it's there.
Yeah. But, I mean, it's also, when you get it set up well enough and you have a product that's continuously desirable, like learning to play the piano, people are going to still be born and still want to learn to play piano. And so long as that exists, you've got something that could exist beyond yourself and still generate revenue, which is huge. You can set up your family and all, however far you want to go with it. But like having something that's tangible, brick and mortar, if you're the only person behind the door checking people out and then it goes away, well, then you've got nothing except for whatever brick and mortar store you built. So it's incredibly successful in what you've done, but also the longevity of it is huge. So walk me through your email batching. Like, how do you make that work?
What's your email process?
Yes. Just as soon as they come in.
So
I spend most of my day in my inbox.
Well, for some jobs, maybe that makes sense.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, you have email notifications on your phone?
No, I don't have them send push notifications.
That's good. That's good.
I don't do that.
Yeah.
But every time I check it, like Jay, I don't know if I gave Jay a heart attack or made him chuckle. I was like, we had one show recording and I walked out. It was like during the middle of the day and I walked out. I was like, okay, I started with 0 and I've got 65 in my inbox within the hour of me being out. And he was like, that's too many. I was like, yeah, but it's part of what I do. People communicate via email and requests come in through email. I've got to answer them and, so on and so forth. So it's like batching to me is not even possible. So I'm curious how it works for you.
I've always valued the concept of inbox 0. Yeah. Right. So like when you're finished checking emails, there should be nothing left. You've dealt with everything. Yep. Right.
Yep.
So I have 4 email addresses, 4 email accounts. Right.
Okay.
One for Piano in 21 Days, one for the online course guy. And then, and those are like for students and prospective students, right? And so then I also have like just a business email address that's more like CEO, whatever, and then a personal email address, right? The Piano in 21 Days and Online Course Guy, like I have a team member that kind of manages those inboxes, right? They'll flag me if something's like I need to respond to something, but they take care of most of that, right? So then it's just about the other two. And one time a day, usually I'll jump in and it's email time and I'll just process the emails and then I'll jump out of it and close it. That's the key. Don't leave it open. And then, I mean, something urgent might come through, but I'll catch it the next time I log in.
So you're doing twice a day?
Just once a day.
So like noon?
It depends on my schedule. Okay. It's usually probably, it's not the first thing I do every day.
Okay.
Because I don't want other people to dictate my schedule, right? I like to start my day with something really important that I planned on doing, right? Because once you get, I mean, it's a crapshoot once you start getting your emails, right? Something could be in there that takes you the rest of the day. So I try not to start there, but I don't end there either because you don't know how long it's going to take. So probably mid-morning some point.
I like it. Yeah, reading like ways to manage and navigate that space. I was like, this would be great if I could get to the point where I can manage the task flow that comes through. Because like, yeah, a lot of my emails aren't just, I got to respond to a question. Like some emails will create a 3-hour task just from a simple email. Mm-hmm. And so to your point, you don't want to, you start your morning with that. You're like, your whole day is gone. But then it's also, how important is it? And so email trafficking, navigating has always been fascinating to me. Like, what are people's methods for controlling the inflow and outflow of what they've got?
When I get an email, I think there's 3 or 4 things I can do with it. One is I can just archive it, right? And that happens a lot. One is I can reply and then I'm done until the next time. Another is I can delegate it to somebody. And then the fourth one is because, I mean, as you know, it's not always so easy to just reply and you're done, right? Maybe it's some things come through that you need to now spend 3 hours on something, right? So in that case, it's more of a, what I like to do is like reply and let them know I got the email and that I'll be working on it, right? And then I put it in my task system, right? So that it's no longer in my email, but I also don't want them hanging, like wondering if I actually got it or whatever. So you want to acknowledge that you received it. I learned it from somewhere, like it's called the one touch rule in email. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to come back to an email multiple times. Like you don't want to open an email and be like, I don't want to deal with this right now, and just leave it in your inbox and come back to it another time. Like when you touch an email, it should be the only time you're touching it.
Cool. That's
it's great.
I hear it. It's great.
Yeah.
That'd be like a goal, get to doing a one-touch rule.
Thank you to our wonderful sponsor, Lake Men's Health Center with Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group. Guys, I know it's tough to get out and go to the doctor. I know it's challenging to find time in our busy days, but I promise you, signing up to be a part of this group with Dr. Curtis Chastain and Dr. Tyler Boudreau, you won't regret it for several reasons, but most of those being the fact of the time it saves, where you're able to get in on the same day, get that appointment done, and spend that time you need to talk with them about what your health goals and concerns are, as well as ensuring that the financial investments you have, you will be able to live out and see those come to fruition. So if you're an investing guy, you know all about and planning for the future and investing in the future. There's no other more important thing to invest in than your health. Make sure you go check them out. Our Lady of the Lake Physicians Group Men's Health Center, and tell them Patty G sent you.
So I'll have to slowly ease into that.
Slowly easing into it is a good idea. Like just switching from whatever you're doing now straight into that may not be the best thing, but I've been doing it for a while, so it's just kind of, I mentioned the quote in the other little segment: "You do not rise to the level of your goals; you fall to the level of your systems." Systems are huge for me, and I learned that the hard way because I'm a great goal setter.
Right.
If by great I mean like I set goals, but I'm not so good at achieving them. And once I learned about that concept, I realized why is because I wasn't setting up the underlying systems around reaching those goals, right? And so that's just, I have a goal of inbox zero, but if you don't have the right systems in place, so, for example, the one touch rule, like I have that ingrained in me to where, no, I got to do something with that email. Like replying, letting them know I got it, and then putting it in my task list is okay, but don't just leave it there.
Yeah. Don't leave it on red or just flag it and be like, we'll get back to you later. Actually do something with it. So you mentioned a couple of times, you've got people that you delegate to or reassign work to. How big is your team now?
I have an operations manager that handles kind of day-to-day type stuff for both brands. I've got a content manager. My operations manager is full-time. I have 2 full-time people, operations manager and video editor in the Philippines. He's full-time for me. And then I have a content manager who's part-time, so that when I record content, podcast, YouTube videos, whatever, I can record them and then just get them in her hands. And she's not like the video editor, she's the content manager. So I don't work with the video editor, she works with them, but then she also is in charge of when those videos go out, when they're scheduled. I read a book a few years ago, The 4 Tendencies by Gretchen Rubin.
Okay.
Heard of it?
I've heard of it.
It has to do with how you relate to expectations, both inner and outer. And
Okay.
so the 4 types are whether you meet or don't meet the inner and outer expectations. And I learned that the type that I am is that I meet outer expectations. So if you ask me to do something, I'm going to do it, right? Because you're counting on me. It's an outer expectation. But the type that I am, I do not meet inner expectations. So if I say I'm going to release a podcast next Thursday and there's nobody or nothing else holding me accountable for that, I likely won't, right? So that's why for me, having that content manager is amazing, because I had a meeting with her earlier today. She's like, hey, Jacques, if you don't get me this footage by next Thursday, we're not going to be able to release that podcast when you said you wanted to. So now I have that outer accountability to do that. So that's why having a content manager is so great for me in particular.
Yeah.
Video editor. I have a very part-time graphic designer, thumbnails, logo stuff, just any graphic type stuff that we need. And then I have a general virtual assistant. So I think that would be everybody. And like I said, just the operations manager and the video editor are full-time. Nobody's in the US.
I was about to say, is anybody here?
Nobody's here. The VA and the video editor are Filipino. My operations manager is in Brazil. He's been with me like 4 years. He's amazing. He was listening to my podcast before he came onto my team. I love hiring from my audience. Yes. Half my team was like in my audience before. My content manager was in my audience. And then the other people I found on Upwork. I love using Upwork. It's amazing. But I think that's everybody.
Yeah. So I love the hiring audience members, and you've already gotten off like their heart from them, right?
Yes,
so
they're bought in.
They're already sold.
Yes, especially like in an education type business where we're teaching other people things, like they're all in on that concept. And yeah, it's been amazing. I love doing that.
Yeah. I mean, if they don't believe it works, right? Because at the end of the day, you're selling a product to better or help somebody. And so if you don't think that will help them achieve whatever their goal may be, whether it's a course or learning to play the piano, you can't sell or have a desire to help them. Now you're just answering calls. Now you're just a call center, or now you're just responding to simple emails. But if you're like, no, like this really will help you, this really will better you for whatever you're trying to achieve, you're going to be so much more eager and just enthusiastic when you go to work.
The operations manager I had before him, she was okay, but I hired her because she was like a certified operations manager. She was what they're called an online business manager, OBM.
Okay.
She had like this certification. That was her bread and butter. But she, like, when I hired her, she didn't know who I was and who my brand was. Like, she wasn't listening to me or anything like that. And it just like, it didn't, we worked together for like 6 months, and this guy was not a certified OBM. He didn't have experience as an operations manager, but he was bought into my message, and it turns out he's an amazing operations and systems guy. And it's such a better fit for what I need.
Yeah. I love that, man. Well, before we get you out of here, we do have a set list of questions we ask every guest. So the first one is, what is something you did as a kid you wish you could still do today?
Touch my toes. I'm so inflexible. Like, you know,
couldn't even do that as a kid.
Yeah, I mean, at some point I was able to, like, you know,
Right.
like you have kids now, right? Like,
Yeah.
when they're little, like they can like squat to the floor, like their butts hitting the floor, and like, I'm sure at one point I was able to do that, and I'm just like so inflexible, and I wish I wasn't, but as a kid I've had a lot more flexibility.
Yeah, I mean, like they put their whole foot in their mouth, like, you know, like literally put their foot in their mouth. Like, it's I'm like, they're just pliable.
Yes.
You know, like the best is when I'll be having like a conversation with somebody in my 18-month, I'll be holding her, and then she'll like get squirmy and want to get down and go run, but like I can't put her down, and she just starts doing like the whole alligator effect. And I'm just sitting there, just like letting her roll in my arms, and the people I'm talking to are like, what is happening? Like, she's just pliable. It's fine. She's just going to keep rolling, and we're just going to keep doing this little dance until we're done with our conversation. But yeah, they're like so flexible and nimble, and they bounce.
Yes.
You have done a lot over the last decade or so of this business, and you have helped other people succeed both in a hobby and also in their own businesses. What are like 3 lessons you have gathered across your time?
Oof. 3 lessons I have learned across my time. The first thing that comes to mind is that everybody's different. So especially like I work with people on a personal level with the online course stuff, right? With piano, it's a lot of like emails, and I don't really get to know them very well, but with coaching people with online business, everybody's different. Like some people want like hard deadlines, like I need you to do this by this deadline, or like you're gonna have to do this. For other people that doesn't work, right? And so as a coach, I'm not able to take like a one size fits all approach, because everybody's just so different and works differently.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind. I'm sure there are plenty more, but you're kind of putting me on the spot.
Sorry, didn't mean to put you on the spot.
Inbox zero is really important. Systems are really important.
There you go. That's 3 lessons right there. Maintain a zero inbox and get a system in place.
Yeah.
So what is something that you love about Baton Rouge? Being the fact that your business is global, you do have people all over the world working for you, you're still here. So what is it that kind of keeps you here?
Do you know, how many people do you know that live in Baton Rouge that do not have family in Baton Rouge or a job in Baton Rouge?
I could probably count them on my hands.
Not many, right?
Yeah,
not many. So that's us. We don't have any family here. I grew up in Mandeville, which is not far away. My wife grew up here, which is kind of how we ended up here, but her family's all moved away, right?
Yeah.
So we don't have any family here anymore, and we don't have jobs here anymore. We used to, but for the past 9 years, we don't have jobs in Baton Rouge. So we literally could live anywhere, right? And we choose to stay here. We've talked about moving somewhere else. There's obviously a lot to like about, I mean, when you could live anywhere in the world, like there's some really cool places out there.
Right.
We just got back last week from a 4-month RV trip.
Okay.
We traveled all over the country. Well, all over. I mean, you can't hit the whole country in 4 months. But in January, we started in the Florida Keys, get the warmest weather possible. And then we drove across country and spent most of the rest of the time in California. Just some incredible places, right? Florida Keys in January. I mean, California, I've been to some of the bigger cities in California, but I'd never like driven through it. So cool. The terrain, the weather, the things to do is amazing. But am I going to move there? We would thoroughly miss it here, right? The culture, just the Cajun roots, the culture, the nice people, what LSU brings and LSU sports brings. Those are the reasons that keep us here, even though we could live anywhere.
Yeah. I mean, it's always nice to go visit, but it's like, where do you want to call home?
Mm-hmm.
And it's everybody, they always kind of say, even the boomerang folks, they're like, oh, I moved away for a few months or a year, several years, but then it just keeps pulling them back to Louisiana. And I'm always, curious to hear, like, especially in your case, where you literally could live wherever you wanted, and it would change nothing of your business. Like, no one's known you for being a Baton Rouge, Louisiana person. It's
right.
like, no. It's just known for your businesses that have a global reach. So it's great to hear that you're still here with the no family and the no jobs. Like that's huge, because it's generally, we get a lot of the answers of, oh, my family's here. Oh, my job is here. It keeps me here. So that's why I'm here. But for you saying, no, like we actively want to be here, even though we really don't have to, and nothing's making us stay, is huge. So for the final question, what can I do to help you?
You can let me help you build an online course and make it wildly successful, and then tell everybody how great I was at helping you.
Done. Deal. Yeah. We'll figure something out.
Cool.
So thank you, man, for coming on. I appreciate your time today. And I might even pick piano back up because of you. I just got to get a piano first.
Yeah, that is a sticking point. No, I appreciate the invitation. This was great.
Absolutely. So maybe now you got to get more people in person for your show.
Yeah. I don't know how many Baton Rouge course creators there are. I'm sure there are some.
We'll go travel.
Yeah. Mobile studio?
I'll show you our setup.
Okay.
I'll show you our setup. So, all right, everybody, thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll catch y'all here next week on the latest episode of the Patty G Show. Y'all have a good one.